Speaking of poor human beings, I mentioned the story yesterday.
I thought we were going to do a
I want to share
commercial
with
right
us.
now.
We can do that.
And now you're showing the same damn
I know.
Baywatch,
Baywatch has been
where
the same
the bikini falls off.
I know it's been on for like
God, I think it rotates. I think this is what was on when I left.
I'm trying to find new episodes for you, but I can't.
I told my kids about this. They're
There's
like,
a
why?
reason why this one keeps playing.
My kids are like, well, why is he putting on Baywatch? He's like, you can't go.
I took my kids to the state fair.
Yeah, what was that with the monkeys and the German shepherds? I was showing my kids, and actually, what my daughter said? I think she's been to the state fair. She's like, oh yeah, I've seen that.
I posted something.
I saw that looks
because
terrible.
I wanted to make sure that people understood how much I enjoyed the state fair. I went. It's a fair, right? And so I was kind of like,
do you have a corn dog?
Yes.
Okay, just make
$10. I think I dropped like $330 something at the state. It was.
Oh my God! What did you
Dude,
get?
it was tickets were $1, and it took 5 tickets, and we had 4 of us, and so I bought $100 worth of tickets. I was like, that's it. I'm not buying more tickets for stinking rides, and my kids don't ride rides.
You never go on those.
And it was like, and there was caution tape over some of them. I was on the scrambler thing where it was swinging back and forth, and the bottom of our thing kept hitting the center rail, and they turned the ride off from it, came over, got a hammer, started hammering the bottom of our thing, and started back up again. I was like, how cool is this? Meanwhile, I'm telling my kids. And there was giraffes, and I showed the video of the dogs riding, the monkeys riding the dogs. And so we got on this this boat ride called Pirates of the World. As opposed to Pirates of the Caribbean. It's called Pirates of the World.
Pendulum kind of thing?
The pendulum thing.
Yeah.
And my daughter wanted to go on. She's afraid of heights a little bit. I said, are you sure you want to go on this ride? Xavier, my special needs boy, was like wanting to ride. He wanted to ride like the drop, and it's like, I ain't riding that.
Right.
There's some things that should not be should not be put together after they come off a flatbed truck. They should be stabilized.
That's my hope.
But I'm not afraid of rides, and so we got on the ride. It was one of the last things we did, and you could tell she was getting a little uneven. And then she started screaming, like screaming.
Like I want to get off screaming.
Like I want to get off screaming. Then it got to the point where she was screaming like I was killing her screaming, and I kept saying it's almost over.
Right.
And I felt the wheel underneath, and it kept pushing us higher, and our butt started getting off the seat. It was a ride, right? And so my son was sitting next to her. He was making this, kind of like, because she was screaming, but he was laughing.
Okay.
She was screaming. The woman in front of her was freaking out because she was screaming, and she could tell that she was scared, and it turned into like a living nightmare. As a parent, I'm like, I've been through a million of these things.
Right.
We got this. It's cool.
It's okay.
It'll be over in a minute.
Yeah.
And then before the ride ended, everyone on the boat was freaking out. Like, she made it like this. It was like walking into a fun house, and all of a sudden it turned into a horror movie where someone was killed. It was like, it was traumatic.
What happened afterwards? Like when she got off?
She just wept.
Okay.
Would not let go of me. But everyone got off the ride. And of course, there's a Latino down there. He's just pushing the buttons and he ain't paying attention. And it just, all of a sudden these things started going, and all of a sudden I thought, okay, some of these are broken down. I'm like, this thing can happen. It's 1 in a million because it's traveling carnies and fairs all over the place. So I ain't gonna worry about it. But it was a traumatic experience. It's something that will live with me forever. Because the whole stinking boat.
Yeah, that's interesting.
People were like freaking
like
out.
Get this girl off kind of thing.
Yeah, because it had started it was throwing up on the boat.
Yeah.
She threw up. That person threw up.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, my son's going, oh, and he's laughing. So that added. It was like opening up the music box, up in the attic with a little ballerina.
So what happened for the rest? I'm the psychologist.
We left. We went to get something to eat.
And that was it.
And I was like, let's go. She's like, I want to go home. And I was like, okay.
How is she now?
She's fine.
Yeah.
But it was pretty scary. No, so this woman, we're walking, and there was this thing. Again, there was giraffes, zebras, games. It was like the state fair. It stunk. The poor lights were nasty. Yeah. It was like a state fair. It was perfect. I don't want a clean state fair.
No.
And I want, a lot of it. So this woman walks up to me, and she's at this. You throw the ping pong ball inside the little glass bowls, the goldfish bowls, and there were rabbits for some reason. I don't know whether they're rabbits and iguanas. I don't know. And she goes, and she was about 4'11". Carnies, they have jobs. I respect them. That's your thing. If that's what you want to do, that's great. I can only imagine the guy who was doing, it looked like an old radio guy. Hey, welcome to Monkey Derby. And I'm thinking, man, this poor bastard lives in that RV back there, and they're traveling from city to city. And I don't know the last time he took a shower, but I respected him for putting this show on. He had a suit that was way too small on. He's sitting there petting this monkey. It was just bizarre. It was weird. But I respected that, and I applauded. I gave him a tip. I said, hey, that was a great show. And he's like, thank you. And so this woman walks up to me, and she's doing this fishbowl thing. And she says, Tony? Oh God! Nope. And she, not the broad brush. She looked like a carny. Okay, she's missing a tooth in front. Her hair was kind of ratty. She was making the best of her situation.
Yeah.
And she said, Tony, and my daughter looked. She knows you. And I said, I looked behind me.
A lot of people know.
I looked behind me. I was like, and she's like, Tony Curry, and I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh my goodness, look at these precious little kids. And I was like, yeah. And I introduced her, and I said, I'm sorry, do we know what she goes, you don't remember? Oh, no. And I was like, 1993. And I was like, 1990. She goes, one night.
Oh no.
We were, yeah.
No, in front of your kids?
Yeah, and I'm kind of like, why don't y'all go off and go try to win yourself a stuffed bear or something.
Here's $100 bucks.
And she was like, and I said, and of course she's like, do you remember? And I was like, and I wanted to go.
This is like a celebrity thing. Like, help us all understand, famous Tony Curry. How do you manage your way out of that one?
Well, I just kind of played along, and I just kind of.
Did you say, yeah, it was great?
Well, it's been
30 years,
20 years, and so I was just kind of like, yeah. I said, I didn't want to say I didn't remember, because you could tell it meant a lot to her, and it had been 28 years.
Okay.
And so I was kind of like, I said, yeah. And she goes, man. And then she started naming places that I used to work. And I was like, and I was going, and she never said what happened.
Oh, okay.
She just said we had a special evening.
Oh, geez.
She didn't introduce me to any of her
kids. So how do you navigate that one?
So I just said, well, it's great to see you again. I think her name was Lulu.
Did they teach you that in PR?
Oh, it was like, you want to talk about a traumatic experience. I was kind of like, because I'm looking at her going.
Have you ever been?
And
with
I'm
anybody?
not, and I'm this close to being a carny. I mean, I could have, I could.
Yeah, but she said she was 4'11".
She was.
Okay, so yeah, you could figure this out.
She let herself go.
No, that's fine, but you can figure this out. I mean, I would assume that you haven't been with that.
It was a nightmare.
But you haven't been with that many women who are 4'11". That's short.
I haven't been with that many women anyway.
So it was all. With your kids.
It freaked me out, man. I was like, because sometimes you look at somebody, you're like, yeah, I remember that night. That was not one of my best moments.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see people are like, oh, how you doing?
Yeah.
This was not like, and the fact that she was carny had nothing to do with it.
Right.
Because there were some good looking carnies there too.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, and boy, she just kept on and kept on. And I was like, okay, well, it was really good to see you. And she goes, do you remember, we went to this place and we went to Dave's and blah, blah,
really?
blah. Really?
Did you have a date with her?
I don't remember. I remember most of those things. So that was kind of.
You blocked on that?
I thought about it, and I kept thinking, how do I know her? And I think her name was Lulu, and I'm thinking, I would remember her name like Lulu.
Social media and find out.
No, I will not.
Maybe Jeff Hammett can find for you.
Then I said, hey, I'm single.
Did you really?
Maybe I should call you sometime. No, I didn't.
You got a whole,
That was my experience. It was a great experience.
We need to document your transition.
It was awesome. I spent $4,373 at the state fair. It was great.
So I have one rule about state fairs.
Yeah.
I mean, the stinky part's fine and the corn dogs are fine.
It was great.
There's one rule. No rides and no rides for the kids. I mean, anything that's slow is fine.
Well,
because anything, I have this thing, man, anything you can put together, and this is nothing against the people who do the state fair. I mean, I've done state fair, but you know how the high schools have those, the right. I'm telling you, if it takes a socket wrench to put that thing together,
yeah,
it just makes I can't enjoy the ride.
Yeah, the first ride I got on was broken, and the second one I went on was shut down. Then the third one, it was a four-seater, and there wasn't a four-seater because the fourth chair had yellow tape around it. And I'm going, okay, this is, and I'm like, it's state fair, come on, we're good. And of course, Santa was freaking out.
I would be right there.
He's like, I don't get on any rides that have three different pieces that need to move. And I'm like, but it being having to get, and I'm like, I'm not going on the drop zone. It was like 100 feet. I'm not doing it. And the Ferris wheel, my son got on the Ferris wheel. I'm thinking that's got a lot of different moving parts and it's really high.
Yeah.
You know, if something just flies off into a field, I think I'll live. But if I'm up there, I'm like, but it was great.
Think about our camera equipment, man. One screw.
I'm one button away from going off the air for my life, and this thing's got like 16. But when I kept swinging on the scrambler, and we kept hitting it kept going every time and he's looking around with a flashlight, and I'm going, okay, maybe you should just shut it off and see what the hell's hitting the bottom of the thing. So he slows it down. And he goes out there with a rubber mallet and just starts hammering while we're in our seat, hammering the bottom, and then starts it back up again. I'm like, okay. Yeah, it was scary.
You've grown up, Tony Curry.
And then we went to the pumpkin patch on Saturday.
Oh, my God. Your life is so much different than mine right now.